We're just gonna take pauses that don't get filled in on the live stream,
Yeah, they won't get filled in on the live stream.
and then we'll just have Josh or Jack do them later.
Yeah.
We could have Jeremy call in and do it like we did on the live post game one. Did y'all see that?
No, I didn't watch the live post game. I was too busy just losing my mind.
We just had Jeremy there every once in a while. It's like, hey, drink at Southeastern. They don't pay me. Back of the show.
That's funny. I thought you were gonna have him advertise a very highbrow Vox podcast about politics.
Should have had him do that, but just make one up on the spot.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright, this is being weird. Saying my live stream event will begin.
Just losing
Oh,
my
there it
mind.
goes. There it goes.
We just had Jeremy there every once in a while. It's like, hey, drink at
Whoa,
Southeastern. Wait, are we on? Back of the
They
show.
can hear us.
Yep. We are.
I
Okay.
need to make sure I'm recording on here. Hang on. I remember how to do this.
About to,
Can you see us?
no, I just I was waiting on
Fantastic
Ryan
news.
to send me a picture.
I did. Did you get it?
Oh, did you send it through Skype?
I sent it through Gmail.
Oh. Oh, there it is. Hold on. Give me a second. Let's see.
That's not my baby.
That's my baby. Sorry.
Okay. I was like, that's asleep.
I guess I could close this door. I'll do that before we actually get rolling here.
Ryan, are you using portrait mode?
There's a setting that says blur my background.
That's incredible.
I don't want everybody else to see exactly what clothes are behind me in my closet.
This is a sexy ass podcast.
So this Nick Saban video, the "You Hate to See It" thing I posted,
Yes.
it has 60,000 impressions, 21,000 engagements, and 43,000 media views.
It's
What the
amazing.
hell?
People just want to watch that man be so mad.
Basically, we've got Jared.
Well, the Auburner retweeted it. I saw that.
Yeah, that's how I know I made it.
I love the Auburner. I love him so much.
It's the best.
I will always be grateful for those Valentine's cards.
Yes. And his random meatloaf video that he made for the West Virginia rain game, where he just put some random meatloaf song.
Bat Out of Hell.
It's incredible.
Yeah, Bat Out of Hell.
I don't
was
think it's
perfect.
Bat Out of Hell. I think it's like a
Are you
different
sure?
Meatloaf song that I'd never heard. Yeah. Oh, it's positive because I love Meatloaf more than I probably should, but I'd never heard that song before. I was like, oh, that's badass. He has a Bat Out of Hell video he made as well. I think he also is a big Meatloaf fan.
Who, Auburner?
Yeah, are we ready to start?
Yeah, I guess we can start whenever.
All right.
All right. So, Josh, you gonna lead us off?
Yeah. Do you want me to just start by talking about?
Yeah, I mean, whatever you got, and I'll count you down once we start recording.
Yeah. I'll do that. Feel free to just count me down when you're ready.
All right. So, 3, 2, 1.
So we lost what may be, in my opinion, the greatest Auburn man, greatest representative of Auburn, at least, over the weekend, and Pat Sullivan. This is Josh Black, by the way. I had the good fortune of starting out at Auburn, but unfortunately, my time there was only for 2 years, as I just didn't have my life together and kind of felt admittedly a bit lost in my time there. I've never blamed Auburn for that, but things happen when you're in your late teens, early 20s, where it can just feel overwhelming. Well, I ended up at Samford 2 years after graduating high school and being at Auburn for 2 years. I played football in high school at Briarwood, and one of my dad's good college friends, Pat Sullivan, gave me a phone call, and I had no idea that he had my cell phone number, but he got it from my dad, and asked me to come meet him in his office after I had enrolled into Sanford. And that day, I was so overwhelmed by just the simple fact that one of my father's heroes and one of, the greatest players in the history of Auburn wanted to meet with me, that I legitimately had I could not explain how excited I was that day. He offered me that day a chance to walk onto the football team at Sanford when I was 2 years removed from playing. I'm a big guy. I was a big guy in high school. My playing weight was probably 305 pounds. Well, I was about 330 at this point, and most of that was beer weight. I had no business having anybody take a look at me to play football after being away from the game for 2 years. But whether Pat Sullivan was trying to do that as a favor to my dad or it was something that he just had an interest in me, it really didn't matter. It was the fact that he was trying to do something to make sure that I could have a chance to get my life back on track through something that had helped me before. I didn't take him up on that. I have walked on a torn MCL now for the better part of 15 years. I've never had it repaired, but it especially hurt when I had all that weight on me. But what he did for me that day did motivate me. In my time at Sanford, I would check in with him and see him occasionally and, kind of let him know that I was doing well and on pace to graduate. And also during that time, I told him, I said, by the time I graduate here, you'll never want me on a football field again because my plan is to look very different. When he met me the first time, if you remember, I said I was about 330. When I graduated from Sanford, I was 220 pounds. Pat Sullivan had a lot to do with me getting myself back into shape and getting into gear just by having somebody that believed in me for no other reason than it was just something that was the right thing for him to do. He was a good friend of my father's. The both of them were in school together at the same time, and my dad was from a small town in Alabama, Dadeville, while Pat was from Birmingham. But you couldn't be in Auburn and not gravitate towards Pat. But Dad and Pat had a special bond through that time that translated later into when Pat was at Stanford, and of course when he was on Coach Stice's staff at Auburn. The thing about Pat is that if you talk to anybody that's of the generation older than us, they'll tell you that he is literally who made Auburn. We give Coach Jordan and Jeff Beard so much credit for what they did, but no one really. Everyone talks about the 70s and Coach Bryant having 9 wins in a row over us, but people fail to remember that from 59 through 68. Alabama won 9 out of 10 games versus Auburn. 1968, at the end of that run, was Pat Sullivan's freshman year at Auburn when he was on the freshman team and led the freshman team to a win over the freshman team in Tuscaloosa. Pat Sullivan saved Coach Jordan's career. What Buddy Davidson did in the campaign for Pat Sullivan for the Heisman Trophy is one of the greatest campaigns in the history of that award, in taking a regional school in Auburn and fighting hard to make them on a national platform. And truly, Pat Sullivan winning the Heisman Trophy is the reason why Auburn was able to become a national brand. Pat is somebody, in my opinion, that you can't find a better representative of everything that we want to be, what we aspire for, and just how we should carry ourselves and the type of character that we should have. Thanks to Bo Jackson and Cam Newton, Pat's never going to be remembered as the greatest athlete to ever step on a football field in Jordan-Hare Stadium. But as I said, he's probably the most important person to ever play football at Auburn for what he did in saving Coach Jordan and giving us hope. And in my opinion, there's nothing better that an Auburn person can give to this fan base and this family than hope. I loved Pat Sullivan. He represented everything that was right about Auburn. He loved his family. He loved his wife, Jean. He loved the Lord God. Pat has battled mouth cancer for the better part of 16, 17 years. And about 39 days ago, I myself decided that the cause of mouth cancer and different tobacco was something that I needed to give up, and I haven't touched it since. Frankly, I had Pat on my mind when I made that decision. I loved that man. There's never going to be a finer representative of Auburn University and the character that we should all want and aspire for. Pat Sullivan was truly the best of us. God bless Pat Sullivan.
Amen.
Hit the theme, Jack. The correct Jordan Harris Stadium time is 8:43 Central Standard Time. Your digital audio device is tuned into the Orange and True podcast, harbored by collegeofmagnolia.com. Greetings and salutations, Orange and Truthers. I'm Son of Crow, a beleaguered and weary and sick Son of Crow. At Son of Crow on Venmo. Over Skype, because I am contagious, is the rumor monger, Ryan Starrett.
Yeah, I think Crow's house is a hazmat area right now. You should gotta stay away from that place.
At Ryan S. Starrett, the S is for Skype. And to the other side of me, also over Skype, giving you full Fort Payne ASMR, is a man of taste, an Iron Bowl champion, a man who has 100 years of down home running through his blood, the AU Chief. To be loose, Brett.
Chief.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, no.
Hello?
Oh, there we go.
War Damn Eagle.
There he is. Guys, sorry that I couldn't make not only the Iron Bowl, because I was in Texas contracting the stomach flu, but I can't make this this podcast.
Well,
that's all right, Crow.
I'd rather not be sick. We did miss you on Saturday, though.
It could be worse. I could have been sick on the drive home yesterday.
Oh, yeah, that was.
My nephew
You didn't want to get sick in Monroe?
My nephew was sick on the drive home yesterday, apparently. My sister told me, hey, Bo's sick. And she's like having to catch throw up in a bag
Cool.
from a 4-year-old the whole way
Oh
home.
my gosh. Are we
Moms
sure
are superheroes.
Are we sure it wasn't the smell of Monroe that made him sick?
Oh, man. Monroe is awful. I got sick this morning I was getting ready for work and got in the shower to go, and all of a sudden was just like, nope, this ain't it. And then just basically haven't left the bed or the bathroom since 5:45 this morning.
Speaking of Monroe, did you really just go out that way to go to the Duck Dynasty wedding this past weekend? Is that what happened?
TIL about Duck Dynasty wedding. I didn't know that existed until just now.
Yeah, apparently. The daughter, the last time I watched Duck Dynasty was like 14 years old, got married this weekend.
I know that he, one of the guys, is a big booster for ULM.
The dad, the patriarch of the family, played.
He played for La Tech.
Right.
He backed up
Terry Bradshaw.
Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah. Phil. Yeah.
Phil. If you told me that guy and Terry Bradshaw were the same age, I wouldn't believe you. That guy's
Which one's
so
older?
shot.
Which one do you think is older?
Shot out looking.
Yeah.
The Duck Commander looks like he's just done a lot of living. A lot more living than Terry Bradshaw has. Terry Bradshaw's like my Uncle Kenny.
It's just different kind of living. That's all.
Right. Well, guys, we're Iron Bowl champs. I think that's probably what we should talk about. Unless, Ryan, you have actually shown
Jumping
us.
ahead there, Crow.
Sorry.
I think before we get going, let's talk about Pat Sullivan a little more. I mean, Josh, thanks. He kind of hit on a personal note at the top of the show for us. But there's a lot that he did just on the football field that we can talk about, not knowing him personally.
Sure.
Yeah. If you adjust for era, he probably is still the all-time leading passer in Auburn history.
Oh, without a doubt. So I'm just going to run through a few numbers real quick. He's fourth in career passing yards for Auburn, and he's the only one to do that. Only one of the top five to do that in 3 years instead of 4, because his freshman numbers didn't count. First in career passing touchdowns. He's tied for 3rd, 9th, and 10th in single season touchdowns. So those 3 years he played were all top 10 in total touchdowns for Auburn.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
71 career touchdowns. 71 career touchdowns were tied an NCAA record at the time.
This is also in an era when stats for postseason games didn't count. Right. And I believe this was in the era of 10 regular season games.
Right. So his per game numbers are just bonkers.
That is wild. Wild
And
stuff.
this is still early in the era of passing. I mean, you didn't have, Joe Schmo quarterback throwing for 450 a game.
Well, they were still running triple option over there in Tuscaloosa at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, we went back to triple option.
Right.
My understanding from my dad was that the freshman team was running a wide open attack when Sullivan and Beasley were honored in '68, while the varsity squad was still running an option attack. And everyone knew going into Pat's sophomore year that things were about to shift.
It's interesting to think about that, like just how much of an aberration that is in Auburn history, to have a quarterback that was a dynamic thrower that changed the offense to a wide open passing attack, because it went right back to a running attack right after he left. It wasn't like we had this run of quarterbacks in the 70s.
Well, it almost, it's almost like he was a Michael Vick of that era, where he came in and did something that nobody else was doing at the time, and nobody else was doing that well.
And this is not like he did it pre-integration.
Right.
71, would have been the year the last teams to integrate would have integrated, with 71 and 72.
Right. But not that he ran like Michael Vick. That's not what I was trying to say. But when Michael Vick came in and just could run and throw well enough, it was, you'd never seen anything like that before. And for a guy to sling the ball, I can't imagine what it would have been like to see this Auburn team, like they're just throwing the ball all over the place. Like it's crazy to think about how different that would have looked to somebody at the time.
Yeah, it's similar. Like in basketball, I always laugh about, like, when I was a kid, the guys that I thought were really good 3-point shooters, and you look at their totals now for a season, and they would be like what Steph Curry might do before the All-Star break on a bad year.
Yeah.
And how there just aren't aberrations like that in basketball, where it's just a guy who all of a sudden is just tearing the cover off the ball, shooting threes, and then it goes back to normal. This was a weird thing in football for this school that is a traditionally running school and will always be that way, most likely, to have this air raid type guy a full 40 years before the air raid was even something that anybody talked about.
Well, and this era, you have to measure anything Auburn does against Coach Bryant. It's the largest margin of victory. 1969, 49-26, largest margin of victory in the series since 1969. It's still that game. Other than the 57-40-0 win, that might be the largest margin of victory we've ever had over Alabama. It is the most points, still by a point, that we've ever scored on Alabama.
Yeah.
Then, guys, he followed it up the next year, and this is something that, it needs to resonate. Alabama had the best running back in the country in 1970. His name's Johnny Musso. Alabama at Legion Field that year got up 17-0 on Auburn, and Johnny Musso ran for 200 yards that day. And Pat Sullivan led what Auburn people at that time considered to be the greatest comeback in the history of Auburn by beating Alabama that day, 33-28. He finished the day 22 of 38 passing for 317 yards and dug us out of a 17-0 hole. And when you've got Johnny Musso in the backfield, you're milking clock. So when you're up 17-0, you ought to be able to hold that lead if you're Alabama. We've only seen something like that one other time in our program's history, and we're 9 years removed from it, and we're still awestruck by it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why our parents' generation holds him in the regard that he was in, and it's something that, to no fault of his own, is neglected, because Bo was such a freak and Cam was such a freak, but what this guy was doing in this era was special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. But he wasn't necessarily doing anything athletically that was just above and beyond anybody else in the country. It was just he was just that good at playing football, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean the guy was just he had a lot of qualities like you would see out of what I saw as a kid out of Bo's father, Pat. He's just a winner.
Yeah.
If you've got a guy that needs to go 80, 90 yards down the field to go win a football game with 5 minutes or less left in the game, that's the guy you want back there. That's Pat Sullivan.
So in his trophy case, he's got the 1971 Heisman, a All-American in 70 and 71, 71 Walter Camp Award, 1970 SEC Player of the Year, Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, and the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame. So he's got everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was no doubt the best player when he was in college.
And he had a pretty decent coaching career.
Yeah.
He
So
would have had a better one had things gone just slightly differently, both in Auburn history and his own history.
Agree.
If I may, Pat Sullivan and Larry Blakeney got the offense right in '86 for Coach Dye and getting away from the wishbone after Bo left. And that's the reason why we produced 3 straight SEC championships in the late '80s. Pat Sullivan developed Stan White. He left Auburn prior to 1993. He was there through '91. Stayed in touch with us even when he was the head coach at TCU. Actually attended the '93 Auburn LSU game in Baton Rouge where Stan surpassed his one of his passing records. One of the things that I always thought that was cool about Pat was that he recruited LaDainian Tomlinson to TCU.
Absolutely.
and essentially set Alabama up for Dennis Franchione by Fran having success there.
Yeah, that's always been my the thing that I really do believe is that he is the reason that Coach Fran had success. He's the reason that Coach Fran ended up at Alabama and then at A&M where he just fell flat on his face because Pat had set things up at TCU. Pat's time at TCU wasn't great, but the
he won the Southwest Conference one year.
Right.
and this was coming off of probation at TCU, right?
Yes, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
He had his work cut out for him.
exactly, and he left TCU and Fran took over with the best player in the country, and then on the back of that, Fran ends up with the Alabama job, though he didn't beat Auburn. So
And then Fran lost 72-0 to Oklahoma when he was the head coach at A&M.
77.
77-0.
yep.
What's interesting about Sullivan, though, is that, who is the LSU athletics director? His son is the string music announcer for Jefferson Pilot. You know who I'm talking about, the basketball announcer.
Dave Neal.
Is he currently the LSU athletic director?
No. This was in the early 90s. He got hired by LSU
Right.
when
we were
Jerry
talking about this
DiNardo
earlier
ended up
today,
taking the job. Yeah, he got hired there, and LSU was so cheap at the time that they didn't pay the buyout. His buyout was something like $250,000 or something like that, and they were too cheap to pay it. And so
That's a field storming fine.
And the AD at LSU at the time was Joe Dean Jr. Like Joe Dean Jr. is the same AD that almost didn't want to pay Nick Saban enough money to bring him from Michigan State. The guy was super cheap. But the other alternative history here is that there was a large contingency of people at Auburn when Coach Dye had to step down. There was a lot of people that pushed for Pat to have that job. Had things gone slightly differently, and by slightly I mean had Terry Bowden not won 20 games in 2 years, that contingency probably wins out. Bowden's probably removed after 94, and Sullivan coming off of winning the Southwest Conference at TCU is probably put as head coach at Auburn in 1995.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting histories of if Sullivan's at LSU or if Sullivan's at Auburn. I mean, the SEC looks a lot different if either of those kind of things
Yeah,
happen.
that's true.
Terry Bowden basically was like, what if Matt Luke won every single game last year?
Or he's like Bunker would say is, what if Gus just kept beating Alabama?
Right. You can't fire him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The timing was just never right with Pat, and it's a shame because that would have been one of those, it's like a Disney movie basically where he gets to come home and coaches his team, and it would have been great, and I really wish it could have happened, but the timing just wasn't right. If he had still been here, because he left the year before,
Right.
Dye retired, right?
That's right.
To go to so if he had still been
91 was
here,
his last year.
I think maybe if he hadn't taken that job, then he's the coach as well.
Part of me is glad in some way that he never was the coach at Auburn, because you look at like a Scott Frost, or sometimes you hire your hero and then eventually you have to fire him.
Right.
And that's a bad move.
That's always what's scary about bringing in guys that played for you, especially ones that you really love, like Travis Williams. What happens one day when Travis just, not necessarily is fired, but leaves because of a coaching change? It's going to be sad.
Or like when Tracy Rocker made a decision and left Auburn. Like, it was,
man, that was rough.
It hurt more because he was from here. And Damian Craig.
Yeah.
That hurt a little less.
Right.
Well, it hurt those of us who love Damian as a player to see what has become of him.
Can we talk about basketball?
One last thing, and then I'll let you guys go, because I know that y'all are much more astute at talking basketball than I am. I will always be grateful to Jay Jacobs and to Gene Chizik and Gus Malzahn for scheduling 2 games with Sanford while Sullivan was their head coach.
Absolutely.
And giving us a chance to give him a really beautiful victory lap in 2011. I'll always remember our football team lining up on the 40-yard line and all of our players raising their helmets in salute to him, and having the 71 team behind him, including Terry Beasley. And then to have him back in 2014, and there just be Sanford and Auburn's got a lot of intertwinements over the years, and for that day, to see Sullivan in Sanford attire on that field at Auburn, get the respect he deserved from the Auburn people, surrounded by people that loved him, including Rhett Lashley, our offense coordinator at the time, who was Sullivan's OC, his first OC job. Cody Burns was an OC for Pat Sullivan at Sanford. There's a lot of connections there with that, and I am, for as much as I hate that we never got a chance to have him as our head coach, I am so thankful that we had the opportunity to do the right thing and give him a chance to be honored in front of that stadium. And for his last game as the head coach to be coached there, there's no way that there could have been a better send-off for him. God bless him.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. I don't think
Well, you want to take better. I agree. Y'all want to take a break?
Yeah.
We'll pause real quick for station identification.
Those listening on the live stream, we don't actually take a break.
Behind the scenes.
All right, now we're back. What a great commercial you just heard about probably a better podcast than this one. And we're going to go.
Thanks to Josh real quick for coming on for us.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, guys. War Eagle.
War Eagle. Beat Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about basketball.
Oh, yeah. Well, they might have just heard a commercial for male enhancement products.
Well,
speaking of,
they did. It plays right into the Roman Legends Classic, which, trophy season. Auburn has won another trophy, which makes it a trophy at that tournament, a trophy in the regional championships, a trophy in the SEC championship tournament last year, a trophy in the SEC regular season. The year before that, Auburn has put together quite a nice haul in the last couple of seasons under Bruce Pearl.
Running out of room.
Is that good?
Yeah, it's better than anybody else in the SEC in terms of number of trophies.
Are we gonna?
I like that.
Are we gonna have a banner ceremony before the Fairbank game?
I hope so. I love that.
Didn't raise a Final Four banner, but we do raise the Romans Legends Invitational.
I hope so.
Banner.
currently known as the Roman Legends Classic presented by Old Trapper.
We're joking, but it was not a bad tournament. Like there were
No,
decent teams.
good
in this
It
group
was
of teams.
fine. Yeah, I mean, were we the favorites? We were the only ranked team.
What year was this tournament, this classic, founded? Ryan, do you know? I do know. I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now.
2007.
Wow, you nailed it.
Did I really?
Yeah, 2007.
Good job, Ryan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ryan
The
Sterrett
team that's
was
won it the most
12
is
years
Pittsburgh.
old, ladies and gentlemen.
You got it.
Yeah.
7th grade.
It has been won by such esteemed basketball institutions as St. John's,
Oh,
Marquette, Villanova, Indiana, Syracuse, and the Auburn Tigers.
wow, that's a nice list of teams.
Is Auburn a Big East school now?
Yeah, exactly.
The old Big East school, right? None of those
No,
guys?
the
Big
new
East.
Big East,
Oh.
not the American.
Okay.
Let me tell you,
Nova and St. John's.
and the guy that's taken a lot of a Gus Malzahn level of criticism in his young Auburn career, Austin Wiley, tournament MVP.
Look at that. Look at
Yeah,
that.
kind of tore ththings up the last 2 games.
He's averaging a double-double this season, I'm pretty sure.
Almost.
he's not
He's
really
at
close.
11 and 9 right now.
Okay, he's averaging really 1 rebound short of a double-double. And he had a couple of games in this tournament where it was like, I didn't look at the advanced box, but it felt like he was getting 50% of the available rebounds or something
Pretty close.
wild like that.
It was a lot. It was a large number.
Like he's turned himself into a rebounding machine, which is kind of amazing. He was not a great rebounder his first year at Auburn. Horace was a better rebounder than him. Mustafa Heron was a better rebounder than either of them. But now, my gosh, he is a force on the boards. And again, gets to the free throw line always.
Yeah, he's not making all of them, but he gets there a lot.
He gets there a lot. And if he just even made 70% of them, that's a ton of points every game.
Unfortunately, I don't think he's making 70%.
No, but I think he did shoot somewhere around 70 for this tournament.
Let's see.
Hence his
For
trophy.
this season,
Chief, what did you think about Javon McCormick's performance over the last couple of weeks?
I thought he did real well. He's settling into his distribution role pretty good. He's never going to be the shooter that Jared was, and I'm not sure that he should ever be even the second choice to shoot threes on the team. But he's gonna get his points, and if he can drop in 7 to 10 points to go along with his assists and his rebounds, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, if he can almost my goal for Javon last year, my goal for Javon was to have more points than capital letters in his first name.
he's definitely got that.
And he's got that because he has 3, I guess, in his 2 names. His J and a V and an M. But I think my goal now is for him to have a 1-to-1 assist to point ratio. If he has almost as many assists as he does points per game, Auburn's in unbelievable shape because what he's doing, and you're gonna see Auburn do this all season. I think Auburn's gonna have a higher assist total than it did last year. We don't have the guys who can go ISO, and he's more of a pick and roll point guard maybe than even Jared was. Whereas Jared was a really good pick and roll point guard if guys went under him because he would just step back and drain a 3. Javon is a little bit faster, which is hard to believe. And so if guys go over the screen, he's able to get 2 points out of a layup. But if guys switch, then all of a sudden he's lobbing one to Austin Wiley for a dunk. And Bruce started doing that a ton in the last couple of games, like really more than he ever has since I've been watching him.
Yeah.
A ton of high pick and roll. It's like he listens to this podcast of high pick and roll action with Anthony and with Austin with Javon. And it's because the way guys were switching and guys weren't running stuff, stymieing up the lane. When we play teams that either have another big guy or that run zone, obviously, we're not going to be able to run pick and roll action as much. But against man-to-man, if you've got Austin Wiley, there's a decent chance they don't have a man that size. So running pick and roll and getting guys to switch is a great way to dominate, to let him dominate them without having to throw the ball into the low post.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I don't think we should ever be trying to force our offense into working the ball to a posted up Austin Wiley. I that doesn't work for a lot of people. I mean, unless you've got Shaq or Anthony Davis on your team, or
it works for no one. As a matter of fact, I sent that article.
We saw both sides of that coin in this tournament, where it seemed like there was a couple times where they were trying to force Wiley down low, and it wasn't happening for whatever reason. And he just wasn't making shots, or he was turning the ball over, or something. And then we would kind of pull back from it. Other guys would start taking shots, and then Wiley was getting every rebound, every putback, because nobody could go up with him. People could guard him, but nobody was going up and getting the ball like he was.
Yeah,
right.
I know personally that's where all of my frustration comes, is when we try to do that. I'm all for doing that high pick and roll stuff and just letting Austin just soak up the rebounds down there. Score yourself 15 points off putbacks, man. All day.
Yeah. He's going to be a putback
great volleyball player.
Yeah, he would be. He might be the greatest fish at the school if we had a men's team. What's funny about Austin, I sent an article to the Slack chat, if I read it, from the Ringer about another Vox Media joint, about how nobody is posting up. And basically this is the fewest post ups in the history of the NBA.
Wow.
And this year has the fewest so far, and last year was the fewest up until that year, and the year before that was the fewest up until that year. And so as the 3-point revolution happens, you're seeing less and less post ups, and the same reason is because some nerds did the math and realized that they're extremely inefficient offensive possessions, because everyone else is just standing around.
Right.
One guy has the ball and he's not even facing the basket, and unless he is really good at making a move, it's usually your worst free throw shooter. You're giving him the ball with an opportunity to get fouled, or to take a fading away shot, or to hopefully get a dunk. And you're much better off moving the ball more often and faster and trying to get an open three. And so you're seeing nobody do it. And so they're talking about, should the NBA change its rules so that guys can go back to doing it?
What's the rule change, though? Is it making the three further?
No, the rule change in the NBA. The rule change in the NBA would be maybe relaxing a little bit the illegal defense, because right now guys can't camp out in the lane on defense, which means they're all spread out even more, which allows for better pick and roll. Because they can't camp out in the lane on defense, then they have to switch everything on the pick and roll, which then leads you, it doesn't make any sense to do anything but pick and roll. If you watch an NBA game, you will see nothing but pick and roll. Every team now looks the same, which is one of the critiques people have of the NBA. Is almost every single team runs the same offense, because it's just been run through computers to see what's the most clinically efficient way to score the basket with the current rules. Whereas college basketball, one of the benefits of college basketball is it's still a very unique. Every team kind of has its identity and does its own thing, and that's pretty cool. And Auburn has kind of found its identity, I think. I think Auburn has turned itself into we are going to score in transition, and if we can't do that, then we are going to bully ball you into giving us 2 points or a three.
Yep. I love how we're playing.
I do too.
We hit on this last time we talked about how this year we're not gonna get beat because we go cold. It's not gonna happen. We can get beat because the other team gets super hot and just hits threes that we're defending well. But I don't think that we're ever gonna get beat because we go cold from beyond the arc. But for one, our points are spread around like crazy on this team. I think we had 5 guys in double figures in one of the games, and it's pretty awesome to see. And we've got a lot of assisted buckets again, which is where Bruce teams are at their best anyway. So I'm having a lot of fun watching this team. A lot of fun.
Something else that's kind of stuck out to me is this team is a lot better rebounding as a team than it was last year. I mean, if you look at it, all 5 starters are averaging like over 4 rebounds a game. You know, even Javon's at 4.6. That's a lot for a point guard, isn't it?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, so Javon right now is averaging 8.6, 4.6, and then 6.7 assists a game.
I mean, and you think about Javon McCormick is like 5'9", 5'10", like.
Yeah, I think he's listed at 6 foot. But
he and I were. I'm 6 foot, and I feel like he and I may have been eye to eye when I met him. Maybe. And the idea that there's no way I could get 4 rebounds in the game, in a college basketball game right now, not a chance. At my height, what he's just an effort player. He's a 100% effort player.
Yeah, and I mean, I love guys that give effort. That's what led me to like guys like Malik. What led me to really like guys like Horace. I like guys that give effort. I especially like them when they're efficient, though. So, which Javon definitely is.
Well, that's something this team's kind of figured out well is the right guys are getting the right amount of touches. Samir's been the most efficient guy on the team scoring, and he's taking the most shots. Javon hasn't been the best shooter this year, but he's not taking a ton of shots. I mean, his usage percent is way down compared to the rest of the starters. So it's not like you have one guy that's, he's just a volume shooter, which I hate that term because that means you're not that good. You just shoot a lot.
Right.
You might average 15 a game, but it's on 20 shots.
What was this team doesn't have name? That. What was the Ole Miss dude's name? The ultimate volume shooter that became a GIF against Auburn.
Marshall Henderson?
Oh, Marshall Henderson.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So he's a volume shooter.
Right.
He might take 60 shots a game.
Ugh. Good God.
Auburn doesn't have that because Auburn doesn't really need it.
No.
There's too many guys that can score. And, we are.
But everybody can do other things, too.
Right.
Oh,
and
first
we're
Isaac
seeing the
Okoro.
emergence of. Yeah, we're seeing the emergence of Isaac Okoro as he, literally flies up draft boards. Today I saw him at 9 on some site. You're seeing a kid fully come into his own. And there's maybe a chance the reason why he wasn't a higher ranked. He was the 40th overall prospect in America last year. But there's one reason why he might not have been a top 10 prospect is because maybe his teammate Sharif Cooper was sharing too many headlines.
Yep.
He played on the same team with a bunch of dudes, both on the AAU circuit and in the high school ranks. He might not have been noticed as much, but there are some pretty smart NBA draft heads that I like that really think he could be the steal of the draft if he goes out of the top 10. But almost everybody thinks he's going in the first round, which was not even. Most of us didn't think he was a first round pick or even going at all. Right. But now it's looking like he is a surefire, locked and loaded first round draft pick.
Sorry, I just yelled at my dog live on the pod.
That's okay. I mean, to me, this team has some incredible potential. That could all fall crumbling down if all of a sudden we get cold and Austin can't stay out of foul trouble in games, or God forbid someone gets hurt. But at the moment, it looks like this team is going to be really strong and challenge maybe for another SEC regular season title, which is I had no idea and no expectation of that going into the year.
It's pretty crazy to think about that. If you just look at it dispassionately on paper, it still looks crazy. But we do have senior leadership on this team. We've got 4 guys that have been around this program for 4 years and 5 years in some cases. And 3 in Samir's, but that's still a long time. They've been around the program for a while. They played roles last year that were pretty key roles. So while we did lose our 2 best players from last year, we got a lot of guys back, and that's I think that's really showing too. This team has a level of maturity you wouldn't expect for a team that has no juniors on it.
Yep. And a team that has, and it's the senior, excuse me, seniors in the right position.
Yes, all right.
You have a senior in the post, you have a senior in the point guard position, and you've got a senior in the shooting guard position. You have important positions held by guys who've been to the Final Four.
You've got a senior that started an entire year of games coming off the bench. An entire year where we won the conference, by the way.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting dynamic too with Mac and Wiley, where Wiley is the starter, but they're playing pretty equal minutes.
Right.
Actually, McLemore's playing 2 more minutes per game.
I was wondering if he maybe is playing more.
Yeah,
it's a really
he's getting 20.7 to Wiley's 18.1.
A really good,
and that's better for both of them.
Yes, it's a great 1-2 punch for those guys.
Yeah.
They're totally different players, and
and some of Mac's minutes are coming at the 4. So they're probably more like 50-50. But what that does is it lets Wiley play his game where he's not having to worry about fouls. He's not having to worry about staying at 100% for 30 minutes. He can just go out and bully his way around for 20 minutes and not be worried that the team's going to be missing him when he's out on the court.
Well, what I find interesting too is that Isaac Okoro's playing in Chuma Okiki's role, but he's actually filling more of Samir's role from last year. I feel like a guy that's comes in, plays really good defense, and just can score you points, but the pressure is not on him to score those points. And and it's nice that we've had that. And then Samir has really stepped into Jared's role.
Samir's a walking bucket this year.
Samir's doing everything right now. He's really taking Jared and Bryce's role scoring wise.
Yeah. It's pretty
I mean,
wild.
he's averaging almost 20 points. He's shooting threes. He's going to the bucket as well. We haven't played the toughest competition, but no one's really been able to guard him yet.
Right.
Right.
And I think once we get into conference play, we're going to see some guys that can match up a little better with Samir, probably.
Definitely.
But I don't know. We're going to have a lot of momentum going into conference play, and a lot of guys will be much more experienced than they were. I think we got to get Stretch some more minutes.
Definitely.
We got to get. Well, I say we've got to. We're getting these guys minutes. I'd like to see a little more out of Jamal Johnson.
And he's been the third guard pretty much so far, with Samir being able to play point when Javon's not on the court, just because Turbo's not really ready yet.
Right.
And so Jamal's getting 10, 15 minutes a game, basically the combined minutes that Javon and Samir aren't playing.
I think really the last couple of games, Flanagan has really cemented himself as that first guy off the bench that's not named Anthony McLemore.
Yeah, and he's taking up most of Isaac's and Nigel's minutes when they're off the court.
Yeah, and he's been doing really well. I've been really impressed with him. Good gracious!
I've been really impressed with Flanagan. He's been this kind of really nice piece to come off the bench, and really, I mean, it hasn't been a huge drop off, and he's played both Samir's spot, and he's also come in for Okoro, and he does a lot. He's a big body for a guard. He's not going to be a guy who's probably going to leave early for the draft. So we got him for 4 years, which is really nice.
We had talked in the offseason about who's going to be one of those gritty guys that he's bigger, he's going to throw his weight around, he's going to make the effort plays. Because we didn't really know who that was going to be this year and going forward. And I think we're probably going to see that be Flan.
Yeah,
that's the way he's playing so far, at least.
Yeah, and he hasn't made many mistakes that I've seen. He's just
Yeah.
He's a good all around player, a good steady.
But he's not
hand.
forcing things either. He's not trying to take shots that aren't open. Uh, he's not trying to do too much in the minutes that he's getting.
Exactly. He's a steady hand to come in for those guys that he's coming in for, and I mean that's as important as a starter that's going to get you 15 points a game.
That's what we talked about is having the guys that are efficient get the most touches.
Right.
You don't want guys that aren't that efficient and not that good of scorers taking away touches from your better scorers.
No, and guys like him, guys like Jamal Johnson, guys like Stretch,
Devin Cambridge,
and Flanagan. Those guys are going to have to win us a game at some point this year.
Oh yeah.
Like there's going to be a time where Okoro or Wiley or McLemore or somebody gets in foul trouble and we've got to rely on the bench. There's going to be a time where Samir's.
It's always going to happen. Yeah, you said somebody's hurt, somebody's in foul trouble, somebody's got a stomach flu.
Yeah,
it happens, especially once you get into conference play when you're playing 2 games every week, just about.
Yeah.
All right, do you guys want to play a little game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure.
All right. So it's real simple. I'm just going to give you a stat, and I'm going to have you pick who the season leader is on the team for that stat. Easy enough?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So we'll start easy. We'll go points per game. Who's the points per game leader on this team?
Samir.
Crow?
Points per game leader? Yeah, I'm going to say Samir.
Okay. Yeah, it's Samir. It's a point for both of you. Good job. Who is the PER leader on the team?
Austin Wiley.
Oh, it might be Austin after the other night. It was Samir going into that game, I think.
Final answers?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Samir. He's got a 0.1 lead on Wiley right now.
It's
28.7 to 28.6.
I wanted to hit this earlier. We look like geniuses for picking the 2 most obvious players to lead the team in PER this year. So
That's true.
All right. Points per shot. So this is just this includes points earned off of free throws, but it doesn't count those as shots.
So is this?
That make sense?
Yeah.
It adds your numerator, but not your denominator.
Is this the
points per shot, not points total?
Points.
Okay.
So it's point per field goal attempt, really.
That seems like you're asking for the most efficient shooter.
Right.
I'm gonna go with Alan Flanagan.
Yeah, I'm with Devin Cambridge. It's probably gonna be Samir though. Since he's this
probably.
Game.
If I told you what their point per shot number was, would that help?
Yes.
Sure.
It's 2.08. So somebody's getting more than 2 points per shot.
So it's not gonna be Wiley.
No.
That's why I still think Devin Cambridge.
I don't know. He's getting to the line a lot, and he hit a lot of free throws the other night.
That's true.
Is it Samir?
I'm not changing my answer.
Is it Samir?
What's your answer, Chief?
I said Samir.
All right, Crow, what you got?
I'm sticking with Devin Cambridge.
It's Austin Wiley.
Oh, I was close.
Man.
Dang it.
He is at 2.08 right now, meaning he's taking no threes. He's taking 0 threes.
Right.
So he's getting enough free throws to offset any of his missed 2-point shots.
That's incredible.
Wow.
I think his free throw rate is still 1-to-1, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah, so he's at
he takes 64%. A free throw for every field goal percentage.
That's wild.
He's actually taking 1.08 free throws per field goal attempt right now.
Yeah, so he's literally taking more free throws than field goals.
Yeah.
Wild.
So just for reference, second place on points per shot is Samir at 1.67.
Okay.
So he's got a third of a point lead on anybody else on the team.
These 2 guys are really solidifying themselves as leaders of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you want, though. You want
your seniors to be playing well.
You want a guard and a post player to be your 2 seniors, your front court and back court, and we've got it. So that's good.
All right, next one, free throw percent leader.
Oh,
who's doing the best at the stripe right now? Because not many people are.
D'Angelo.
I'm waiting for both of you.
Yeah, D'Angelo.
It is Jamal Johnson.
Oh my God! Oh,
He's. I limited it to anybody that had at least 10 attempts.
okay,
He's 10 for 12, 83%.
that's pretty good.
And D'Angelo is sitting at 71% right now. So
Okay.
he's fine. Not great, but
Off his pace a little bit. Though.
yeah. Samir sitting at 78. Well, I like that.
I like that too. Samir's gonna
Javon
get the line a lot, so
Javon's at 33. So
it's not great.
not great, Javon. Man, I mean, if he were hitting more free throws, he'd be at 10 points a game.
Right.
Let's see. Let's do one more. You guys are still tied at 1-1, so maybe you can split it up here.
Okay.
Floor percent. And so I'll define that for you. Floor percent is the percent of possessions that a player is responsible for ending. So either he shoots it, he turns it over, so whatever. So the percent of possessions that he is responsible for ending that end in him in points. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
Austin Wiley.
basically, the percent of times that he's touched the ball and it ends in points. Is that what we're saying here?
Or a turnover.
Okay.
The possession
Well,
ends with him having the ball.
Yeah, if he is the last person to touch the ball, what percent of those possessions end in points?
I'm going with Austin only because he does have a lot of turnovers.
He does.
Well, with turnovers aren't good. It's gonna hurt your number.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I know that was the negative part of this.
Yeah, so if it's so the numerator is possessions that end in points. The denominator is possessions that you're the last person to touch it.
Gotcha.
I mean, it could still.
I don't think it's Austin then. I'm going to go with Isaac Okoro. He
Samir.
doesn't turn it over much.
Samir.
Crow's got it.
Ah.
Isaac Okoro at 48%.
He doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, he does
Yeah,
never.
so the only time he's quote unquote turning it over is if he's missing shots.
Yeah, he threw it out of bounds the other night, and that was about it. That was his only turnover.
And the other night, was it the last game they played was the first game that he actually got into quote unquote foul trouble.
Yeah.
I don't think he's had more than 2 fouls in a game until then.
Yeah, so he's averaging 2 fouls a game and 1.9 turnovers a game.
It's nuts.
I'll take that as the only freshman that's starting.
He's a freshman who's a defensive specialist, and he does not foul.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember when he got in foul trouble? One of those was a blatant flop. So
Right.
it's this. I don't know, guys. This is we are seeing something really special with this kid. Really special.
Yeah.
So I had a tiebreaker for you guys. We're not going to need it, but I'm still going to throw the question out there for you. Take a guess as to what our opponent's 3-point percentage is right now. And Isaac Okoro is going to play a large point of that.
Say that again.
So, what is our opponent's 3-point percentage? What are Auburn's opponents shooting from threes so far this year?
Oh, I'm going to say it's abysmal.
Yeah, Auburn is shooting 35%.
I'm going to say it's 11%. No. Yeah.
No, I think Auburn's shooting in the 20s.
The opponent. So
Yeah.
Auburn is shooting 35%.
Yeah, I think 25. Give me a quarter.
28%.
Okay.
But still, I mean, they faced a couple of really good 3-point teams, including Richmond. That's what they did. I think they were like a 45% shooting team going in. And Auburn's defense is just they've been like glue on these guys. They're not forcing that many steals, but they're just not letting anybody hit shots. It's impressive.
That is impressive. It's pretty crazy. Because I couldn't. It just feels like. Well, did you give us a number? What are the average number of threes hit against us? Do you have that number?
Average number of threes per game?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Why don't you take some guesses as to those numbers, and I'll answer them for you.
I'm gonna go with.
I've got it now. If you want me to tell you.
8, 10, 8.
Yeah, I
Total?
like 8. I like
Oh,
8
sorry, you said per game, right?
per
Yeah,
game.
Well, so for the whole season, it's 43 of 51 opponents. So 43 divided by 7 is they're hitting about 6 a game.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
On 20 or so attempts.
Yeah. I love that. Let's keep that going.
And that's what's getting us such good rebound numbers is because they're forcing so many bad 3-point shots. They're not hitting them, and the defense is more likely to rebound than the offense is.
Exactly.
I mean, in essence, a bad shot forced is a turnover.
Right.
So, all right. Do we want to look forward to the one game this week?
Yeah, Furman. Right?
Yeah, let's do it. The Paladins.
FU.
F
Uh,
you.
I think we got enough practice saying that this weekend. All right, so Furman, they're going to be the toughest team we've faced so far. They've got a very nice Ken Palm, number 69. They're 7-1 on the year, although they may have lost tonight. I'm not sure. I think Will was texting me earlier about that. But their SRS is 35th, so I mean they're looking the part. The computer metrics, they're not just a mid-major that's played nobody. They're beating teams by 20 points a game. And let's see. Their main scorer is Jordan Lyons. He's a senior. And what we talked about earlier about, you want your efficient guys to be your lead scorers and have them take the most shots. That's not this guy. He's 16 points a game, but he's only 30% from 3. I think 58% from 2. So he's taking all the shots and getting some points, but
come on, you didn't use your pun.
Proficient.
You gotta use the pun there. Come on.
He's getting the lion's share of the shots.
There you go.
There it is.
Yeah. These guys have kind of an interesting starting line, just size-wise. They've got 2 guys that are 5'11", and then they've got 3 guys that are 6'7", 6'7", and 6'8".
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think our guards should be able to have a decent night on defense. The other guys are going to be Wiley won't be, but maybe Okoro and Purifoy might have their work cut out for them.
Well, I think, this could be another one of those games. We say this every week, I feel like. We could lose this game.
Sure.
It's a losable game. We're not playing some terrible team. This is a team that could beat us. But it's going to be games like this that really show us. We're learning more and more about this team every game, which is nice. Yeah. We still don't know everything about it.
Right.
And we're going to learn more.
Well, I think that's what is so fun about this team. I was really nervous coming into this year. And I don't know if I've talked about it in the pod. I know I've probably said it in the Slack that I didn't know how I was going to connect to this team just based on who all we lost. I'm a big Samir fan. I always have been, and I knew I'd enjoy seeing that, and was hoping we'd see what we're seeing out of Austin. But we didn't know. But
Drew knew. Crow knew. That was about it. But.
Yeah.
But I've connected immediately with this team. We still got some personalities on this team, and just watching them play a different style of basketball than we've seen the last couple of years, and do it well together, and not perfectly. Some of these games we've looked pretty out of sorts at times, but we've gotten the job done.
Particularly from the free throw line.
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah, this is. For those of you that are just tuning in to Auburn basketball, this is not new.
Except for last year, they were good last year.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Mainly because Jared Harper was really good.
Last year and the year before, they've been pretty good. But
again, Jared Harper.
If that's your only experience with Auburn basketball, maybe you think that this is new, but this is not new. I wish I could say that it was, but it's not. So, but yeah, I've really connected with these guys. We spent 5 minutes talking about Alan Flanagan earlier, just the guy off the bench, and I'm enjoying it. Enjoying seeing what they are capable of, and looking forward to this upcoming after we get past this little slow period of basketball, just the rapid fire schedule coming after that.
It's going to be another 9 days after this Furman game before we play St. Louis and Birmingham.
It's going to be rough.
So you've got 9 days between that game, which is Thursday, and the next basketball game.
Right.
And we've got like how
over
many
2 weeks
till,
until between home games.
and we don't even know when the next football game is going to be. Most likely January 1.
Probably.
We got Auburn Sports Desert we're about to walk through, boys.
Oh, hang on. It's going to be Cruton time. Got to get Nerd back on here.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, an Auburn Sports Desert we're going to be walking through here, boys.
We did, but I guess
We're at the hour mark.
Yeah, we should take a break.
Should we move on?
We should take a break.
Okay.
And,
yeah, we should probably talk Iron Bowl before we throw off.
Yeah, and we'll do a little transitional thing after we come back.
Okay, and we're back from that great break.
So, we're going to talk Iron Bowl, right?
Yeah.
But we were just talking
I
basketball.
wasn't there, but you two were.
Yeah, well, you know who else was there?
Okoro.
Well, he was.
Who was he with?
We can talk about that. It looked like he was just sitting by himself in a sea of people when they showed him on the jumbotron. He looked like he was just there, just hanging out. But like he just showed up.
He's a freshman. Most of his friends probably didn't get tickets to this game.
That's true. He looked like a guy that was just like, you know what, I'm going to check this football thing out today, and just kind of wandered up to the stadium and found a seat. And it was funny. I'm sure some of those people must have been his friends, but it just didn't. It like just the way. It seemed like everyone was kind of sitting a little bit away from him as he's sitting there, and he's just having a great time, and it was awesome. It was the best.
Having read some stories about some one and dones, like Ben Simmons is one, and then Kevin Durant also. I wonder how Auburn is doing Okoro in terms of class, because like those dudes, I think they all, because they knew they were one and dones, they didn't attend a class after like February of their freshman year. They didn't go to class, they didn't take a test, they didn't do anything.
I'm sure he has to be in class now because he's got to be eligible for conference play.
Right.
Dear God, please let him be.
Like Kevin Durant famously said something like he probably went to 6 weeks of class in his 1 year at Texas.
Why not?
I mean, he knows
at the very least. At the very least, he could be taking like basketball, bowling, scuba diving, like
right.
But no, that was cool. But also, Greg Brown was at this game.
Oh yes, the young superstar Greg Brown from Austin, Texas.
Yes, Texas's own, and seemed to have a very good trip. I'm sure that he will never experience another football atmosphere like that. That's for sure.
Definitely not at Texas. He won't.
Oh no, God no. Not unless he finds a time machine and transports him off this planet. Anyway,
even then, I don't. Texas's home games are never like that.
Yeah. So this game we're about to talk about could play a huge part in securing us one of the best big men in the country.
Yeah. The game, I wasn't there. You guys were.
Yes.
I wasn't at the game. I was on campus.
Okay.
He was watching it with Juju at the tailgate.
Oh, nice.
That was a great experience.
Shout out to
Juju. That with Juju and my Bama grad father-in-law.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
So I watched it fully on the CBS broadcast at a house, my mom's house, which now the last 2 Iron Bowls I've watched in my mom's house are this Iron Bowl and the Kick Six.
Oh, well, you've got to be at your mother's house for every Iron Bowl, Crow.
I know. And the last Iron Bowl my family all watched together was 17. So we've only watched 3 Iron Bowls altogether since I've been dating my wife. And it's 13, 17, and 19.
Crow, why are you not... why is this not
happening
happening
the other
every
years,
year?
man?
Well, there was a bit there where I was living in Germany, so they had to come to Germany to watch the 17-Iron Bowl with me.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Anyway, it was a wild broadcast because, it's CBS, which means it's going to take an extra 30 minutes. There's a million commercials. It's Gary Danielson. It's that weird white balance that CBS uses where nothing looks quite correct. But all I remember, I never felt like I knew what was going on.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Did I lose you guys?
Supposed to do decline the penalty?
Yes. Most
No.
NFL coaches would have declined the penalty. Most very conservative college coaches decline the penalty because you don't want to ever take points off the board. And then Gus.
But you need touchdowns there.
Right. Riverboat Gus.
We all thought we were missing that second field goal though, after we ran 3 more plays, right?
Yeah, I did only because for some reason I remember one of the plays being, I think Bo made a bad pass, and I was like, oh my gosh, we've just wasted this aggressive move by Gus to only lead to an opportunity to miss another field goal from 10 yards closer.
Right. It just felt like.
And it's not like we were, on the 15 or anything at that point. It was still a 43-yarder.
Right. It was still a long field goal. But hey, he made it. So maybe this is the beginning of Anders really coming into his own here. Sorry I dropped off there, everybody.
That's okay.
It happens.
I thought you were just a really good listener.
We all know that's not true.
If you look at the stats in this game, there's no statistic besides turnovers that really make it look like Auburn should have had any chance winning this game. I think Connolly said it was S&P
Like 6%.
6%.
Alabama had a 6% or a 94% chance of winning the game after the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And yet it really didn't feel like we were going to lose.
Well, because it was never more than a one possession game in either direction, was it?
Right, and we didn't punt a ton. It wasn't like we were like, man, our offense can't get anything done. It was like, we get the ball back, we can go score.
Hey,
and a lot of it comes down to the last, what was it, 5 minutes in the second quarter or whatever it was, where there's 38 total points.
Yeah,
in those last 5 minutes, because there was the pick six, the kick return, there's another touchdown. I mean, it was wild.
Yeah,
it was. Man, neither team felt like they ever got really any momentum in this game, and yet both teams scored over 40 points.
Well, because at no point were there any like, oh man, this was a 9 minute, 15 play drive that's just destroyed. I mean, I think Alabama's first drive was like that, and they had to settle for a field goal.
Right.
And after that, it was just guys were making plays all night. You know, whether it was McLean's 100-yard interception return or Smoke's 30-yard interception touchdown, or the Auburn receivers, which were held together with Band-Aids, just all game long making just crazy catches. Sometimes they didn't get credit for them. But
how many points did Waddle score by himself?
Waddle had 4 touchdowns.
He had 3 receiving
touchdowns and the kick return.
To the two ladies in front of me that were dressed ridiculously, credit. They were talking about Waddle like at the beginning of the game, like before he ever scored, as being the guy, and I'm like, really? I'm like, you got Jerry Jeudy. Like, why are you talking about this guy? And of course, every time he scored, they went absolutely insane.
Yeah, Waddle ended up looking like what we all want Anthony Schwartz to be.
Sure.
Yeah. He is the fastest guy in the field, and you cannot come close to him. And I mean, I don't know what his 100-yard times are, his 40-yard times, or whatever, but Auburn couldn't run with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he was running away from Iggy. He was definitely running away from Tut. But he was impressive.
There was a lot of poetic irony in this game. Like, you had Waddle being the guy who was the 12th guy on the field, and you had Tut get burned by Waddle so many times, but also his punt return set up a touchdown that basically helped us win this game.
Yes, absolutely.
That's one of the best returns of the year by him.
Yeah, our special teams played better than they have all year in this game, which is funny because I commented,
you give up a kick return touchdown.
Right. I commented in the middle of the game that our special teams are as bad as I've ever seen them, and that they could decide the game, and it turns out they did. Siposs had a excellent punt late in the game. Probably his best punt of the year that landed on like the 7 or something like that, and that also helped us a lot.
I saw him on somebody's like second team All SEC list. Aaron Siposs.
I didn't see any other punters lining up a wide receiver this week.
It's true. Is that a Heisman moment?
It's a Heisman moment.
Heisman moment. Yeah.
The idea that play is such a Gus Malzahn. It's the most Gus Malzahn way to win a game that there ever has been. And like all the bozos who, when Gus lines up in Wildcat on 3rd and 2 from the 50-yard line, who are like, "Oh, here he comes again, high school Gus with the Wildcat. Oh, I bet that's going to work." The fact that he knows enough football to go, yeah, we're showing the punter up at receiver and just make them lose their mind.
Do you think there's anyone else on this earth that Nick Saban hates more than Gus Malzahn?
No, he's the anti-Saban, which is why we have to keep him.
Maybe Lane Kiffin. Hang on. Maybe Lane Kiffin.
I don't know. Lane Kiffin helped him win a daggum championship, did he not?
That's true.
And he also ran him off before another one.
I don't think he hates him, though. His relationship with Lane Kiffin is almost exactly like it is with everyone else that he comes in contact with. He just doesn't like them.
Right.
The man doesn't like anyone. Maybe his wife. He probably likes Miss Terry.
He likes his players. You can tell he likes his guys.
Does he?
Some of his players.
Are you?
No,
does he?
No, I do, because he is
like
one of the
Barrett
guys
Jones? He was probably a big fan of Barrett Jones.
he stands up for the players in terms of, name and likeness stuff, but also like in terms of them not getting kicked off of the team for small minor things. He's like, well, what are they going to do?
I don't think that has anything to do with liking the players. I think that has
real good recruiting pitch.
I think that has everything to do with recruiting, and that he doesn't. They could shoot a man in the middle of Bryant Drive as long as they're playing for him. He doesn't care because he wants to get the job done. I think that's.
He just wants he just wants the W. That's it.
Yeah.
But I do think he cares about his players while they are playing for Alabama. Put it that way.
Maybe I don't think it's anything like Gus Malzahn or say Coach O cares about their players. I think it's
no.
Totally
Or even Dabo. I think Dabo cares about his players more than Saban cares about his players, or ever has cared about anybody in his life.
Well, Dabo is just basically a Baptist youth minister that's coaching a football team.
He's running a mega church that has a football team up there.
So while we're talking about Saban, we will have to admit that this past decade has been. I mean, Alabama's definitely been the best team, but
he's the best. He's the best
in this
coach
decade
in the
is the most dominant team in any decade, right?
Yeah, he's the most. He's the best coach in the history of the sport.
And Auburn's record in this decade against that great dynasty is 4-6. It's one game under 500.
I think it was Marcelo tweeted out. I think it was Marcelo that Auburn's responsible for like 30% of all of Nick Saban's losses while he was at Alabama. Something crazy like that.
He didn't have a winning record against us at LSU.
Right.
The man probably hates Auburn more than most Alabama fans, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and we beat him in very weird ways when he was at LSU too.
Yeah, that's true. It's very
but
true.
Only at home.
Yeah, well, of course. We may never win in Baton Rouge again.
Yep.
Yeah, this Iron Bowl was. I was telling everybody after the game. I would love to just beat the crap out of them every single time, but I think I'd rather win like that, where it just makes them so daggum mad because nothing they could do about it.
When they're quoting the rule book, you know you did it good.
Yeah, you know you worked out right. This is like a president of the United States level troll job that we did on these guys.
It's good because I like it as a breakup. Like 2017 was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think had Alabama not made the playoff that year as well, we'd look back on that as one of the greatest Iron Bowls of all time. But there is something to be said for doing something that not only ruins their year, but then makes them so angry because it was just so, I don't know, like just so lucky, but not lucky. Like
So
it's just the minutia of the rule book.
During the game, it really felt like all the breaks were not going Auburn's way. Derek Brown goes out hurt. Marlon is down for a little bit. Like Anthony Schwartz
is hurt the first game. Missed
the whole game.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, well, the luck is not on our side.
Caught Shedrick Jackson out of bounds.
Yeah.
I don't think that's luck.
No.
Did we know what's going on with Anthony Schwartz?
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't seen I've been looking for it too. I haven't seen a single.
We were talking about in the group chat earlier today about who might sit out the bowl game. If I'm him, I'm probably sitting out the bowl game because coming out this summer.
Well, if he's a little banged up and he really, I don't know what his ambitions are for the Olympic team. I don't know if he can make it or whatever, but
I think he has a chance to make it.
So I would venture to guess that may be why he missed this game. He got a little aggravated of whatever injury because Crow, didn't you say that they said on the broadcast that he was on the exercise bike on the sideline?
Yeah, they showed him on the bike. And I think they had said this was an injury that he got during the Samford game.
He's got a nagging hamstring that he's had since he was in high school.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that maybe that had to do with, this kid's got other things ahead of him, and we did win without him, and the fact
he doesn't score that touchdown. He does not score the touchdown that Sean Shiver scores.
Right. And the fact,
and that would have been him.
We haven't been that reliant on him in these big games. We've lost games because he didn't touch the ball,
right.
you might say. So, but they were all close. So we knew that maybe we could make it a close game without him, and maybe we didn't want to risk it. And you shouldn't be risking these kids' future prospects. I think maybe Derek Brown and those guys got a little banged up and may have rolled out there in case. Anyway,
right.
This was their last game, their last real game.
Yeah, we weren't winning this game without Derek Brown.
Right. And
no, see, Derek Brown had a 3.5 havoc rate. Like nobody else was over 2.
I'm gonna miss
in the game.
Yeah, he had 3.5 tackles for losses, and nobody else came close to that.
I'm gonna miss rooting for that guy. He is.
He had 6 tackles, 3.5 for loss. It was unbelievable.
And he had the pass breakup on that last third down play.
However, everybody's pointing this out on Twitter, and they're right. Had he not touched that ball, it's a pick 6.
Yeah, maybe
it's a pick 6.
Yeah.
No, like Denson is making a beeline for where that ball's going to land, and the running back wasn't looking when the ball was thrown.
Wouldn't have been the first time.
Exactly. It was the same situation where they were throwing it to Harris. He hadn't turned around yet. And the defensive back was literally from the snap making a beeline for where it was going to go. And you could tell, like, after you watch the replay of the play, after Brown knocks it down, Denson just like grabs his helmet, like his own helmet, is just like, oh man, because he knows he's got a house call. He ends the game at that moment with the pick 6.
Yeah, that's a definite game ender at that point. I know you guys were watching on TV. I was watching live for that Shivers touchdown, and it was in our end zone. And when that helmet popped up, it looked exactly like the ball. And
right.
Jeremy and I both thought that the ball had just popped out. Like, we both about had a heart attack, and then we realized, oh no, that was that guy's helmet. And then, of course, went insane. Again, one of the many times that we went insane in this game. This game had a lot of ups and downs in it because of the nature of the just all-out offense that was going on out there.
Well, that touchdown's going to be in all the highlight videos, not just next year.
Sure. For
a while. And not because it was necessarily the biggest play. I mean, it was a huge play, but that's just a perfect shot. And there's one, I think it's of Nick Fairley against LSU, where they always timed it on the base drop of the highlight video for like 4 or 5 years. And this is going to be that now, I think.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to see that guy's helmet flying off.
Helps that it's against Alabama. Like that,
yeah.
Ups the stakes a little bit on that sort of thing. How happy was Bo at the end of that game when he knew we won it off that penalty?
He loved it.
I turned to Jeremy. I was like, they knew that was going to happen. I actually, the entire time, I was like, they're going to have 12 men on the field. They're going to have 12 men on the field. And then I started screaming it. And then I was like, hey, he's still on the field. And then they threw the flag, and I went crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Gus knew it, too. I mean, in the postgame, they were asking him about it, and he had like a minute-long breakdown of exactly why that was going to work.
Guys, why do people think it's illegal to put your punter out at wide receiver?
It's unfair.
It's not illegal.
Right.
It's not illegal.
Why do you think it's unfair?
Saban was saying it was unfair because the rule book says that the defenses can be given a fair amount of time to substitute. There's no like standard amount of time.
But that's the thing. They did sub. They just subbed in the wrong group.
He wanted.
It
to
was
sub
mass
twice.
confusion. It's so funny seeing a Saban team that's so about the process and so about dotting your T's and crossing your I's, as it were.
That's what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
You know what? Also, it's funny is that the rule that Alabama fans keep quoting, and that I know other blogs have put on, about unfair substitutions meant to confuse or whatever
Mm-hmm.
is what it says in the rule book. The only time that rule's ever been applied is when people do things like make it look like a player is subbing out,
Right.
but he never
Yeah,
leaves the
people
field.
standing at the sideline.
That's
That's
what
the
that
only
rule is
time that
for.
rule's ever been applied. It's not been applied for literally just putting a punter at a weird position.
Right.
That doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Have they
because
tried to invoke that rule when they sub in a running back and do what? I forget what's the play called where they hide by the line of scrimmage.
Would he?
Yeah, Woody.
Yeah. So when you run that play, is that an unfair substitution because the defense didn't know where he was?
Is it unfair when we do Wildcat to have the quarterback out at receiver?
Right. That's my whole thing. Like, what? And we sub for that. Like, it's not even like we do that out of our normal formation anymore. We'll sub a guy in and then run Bo out to wide receiver. It's that's so silly. And I'm surprised that they're focusing on that, and not the 1 second at the end of the half, which was also.
I don't think they want anything to do with arguing about 1 second.
That's probably true. But I've never seen.
Because Saban was apparently a rule was added a couple of years ago that said you have to have 3 seconds for that exact same situation.
Oh, not exactly that. It's 3 seconds to clock the ball,
Right.
not to snap the ball,
Right.
just to clock it.
I think
this situation's not in the rule book, and I don't know why people are thinking that it is.
I think we will see a change put on the docket by one Nicholas Saban this next year that will probably get passed that will say that you have to keep the same personnel on the field that was on the field at the time of review.
Yeah, and if that's the way they want to do it, saying that you can't sub with a running clock in 1 second, sure.
It's fine, but you got to know the rules.
Yeah.
And I've never
honestly, I didn't want them to kick that ball because it was what I think that was a 44-yarder. Maybe that was 52. I'm not sure.
52-yard field goal.
Yeah. So my thought was, okay, just go, let Bo throw it to the end zone.
No, just kick it.
You and your favorite kicker, Anders Carlson.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was like, well, just kick it. 52. Because I was afraid that they would say the odds of him hitting that are greater than the odds of us throwing something up and it going in to one of our.
Not with his numbers before this game.